It is now my pleasure to welcome this evening's final presenter, Peggy Delaney. Peggy is the founder and chair of the Synagogues Institute, a global non-profit organization helping to solve problems of poverty and inequality by promoting and supporting collaboration. One of the synagogue's key partners is in Southern Africa is the Mozambican Foundation for Community Development, founded by Graça Machel. In 2001, am I right? Numbers and me. She co-founded Synagogue Global Philanthropist Circle with her father, David Rockefeller. Her experience in under-resourced communities began in her youth when she lived and worked in Rio de Janeiro. She sits on a number of boards, corporation, and non-profit boards, as well as the advisory board of shared interests. In 2002, she worked with shared interests to honor and raise funds for the foundation of Nelson Mandela and her close friend Graça Machel. Friends, please, let's welcome Peggy Delaney.
Thank you so much and good evening. So I have to start with the bad news. This is turning out to be a terrible evening. Harry Belafonte was supposed to be up here with me, and he said, no, you do it. So I know I'm going to be an awful disappointment. And then to make matters even worse, Donna gave me this beautiful script to read, and I was kind of checking it out at the table, and Graça took a look over and said, you're not going to say all that, are you? So I feel a little bit caught between a rock and a hard place. But I'll do my best to improvise and honor what Donna wanted me to say. Besides, I think most of you in the room already know a lot about Graça Machel. You know that she was a freedom fighter in the 70s. She became Minister of Education when her husband, Samora Machel, the first president of liberated Mozambique and of the party of Frelimo, was president. And she was part of the leadership team that gave hope to the country. After his tragic death in 1986, she left government, and after a period of reflection and deep mourning, decided to really build the civil society of Mozambique. And she started the Foundation for Community Development, which has helped support dozens, maybe hundreds of other civil society organizations in that country. But at the same time, she was beginning to be known as a figure in the world, and she was invited to lead a panel on armed conflict against children, which she did with enormous grace and fierceness and poise. And then went on, as you know, to marry Nelson Mandela and to serve the country of South Africa as well as she had served Mozambique. So she's not only a hero of Mozambique and of South Africa and of the SADC regions of Southern Africa and of all of Africa, but really is a known hero in the world. Sorry, Graça, I'm getting carried away, but I can't help it. So in addition to that, she's been a champion for women, children and women. She has a vision for the women of Africa and for the children of Africa, which is what she wants to spend her next years working on and focusing on. She was claiming today that she starts too many organizations. So having started in 2010 the Graça Machel Trust, which is going to work on issues in Africa, she's now started the Children's Investment Trust, something of that, Institute, I think, something like that, which is also going to work on children's issues. Graça is a force of nature. Nobody can deny that. She is known to many, including here, as sister, and to even more as mother. She has the fierceness of a tiger. She has the passion of a lion. She has the endurance of an elephant. She never gives up, no matter how hard the times are. She holds out a standard of hope that gives hope to the rest of us and keeps us involved. So Graça, for your role in empowering women in Africa, I want to give you this award, my sister.
Thank you. I was asking Peggy, how can you do this to me? But you know, when we are brothers or when we are sisters as we are, sometimes we allow our emotions to flow. So forgive her for having been so generous to me. I stand tonight and accept this award on behalf of literally women, millions of women who in one way or the other along my long life I've had the privilege of working with. The story starts at the time I was thrown into the challenge of being Minister of Education. I was 28 to turn 29. And I had to figure out what it means to start from scratch, to establish a system of education which would give Mozambicans a sense of how to take control of their lives and of their destiny. I learned at the time that between boys and girls, although the opportunities were equal, but girls would face much more challenges to use the opportunities of access and success in education. So my involvement and my passion with women's issues are not an intellectual option, are dictated by practice and lessons of life. When Mozambique was engulfed in conflict, I was still minister. Every morning I would get into my office and get, at that time there was no fax, there was no email, let alone a cell phone. So messages would come to my desk through telegraphs. And I would be told schools had been destroyed, children had been killed, teachers had been kidnapped. And I had to figure out, how do you continue to develop a system of education with children who are traumatized? Children have been robbed of their childhood. So, again, when people say I am a champion of children's rights, it came out really of pain. And it came out of looking into the eyes, gazed eyes of children who looked at me as a mother to say, can you explain why we are subjected to this kind of suffering and pain. So I had to find a way of working with UNICEF. How do we give back an opportunity to a child who has lost childhood to become a child again? And that's how I was involved with child rights, and to remind us as adults that whatever are the differences we may have in life, leave children alone. Let them be children, because this is simply what they deserve. So I had to confront, powerful people to tell them this story of wars, if you want to fight each other and kill each other, it's your decision. But children, no, leave them alone. So my experience in life is not really of choosing causes. I think my causes have chosen me. And I have involved in promoting the political freedom of my country, particularly to create opportunities for women to take a center stage, actually. And let me say, in Africa, we have made a lot of progress in recent years. In the first 50 years of independence in Africa, now you can find women in different positions, including, in parliament, in government, in judiciary. We are struggling to have them as prime ministers and presidents. I have my deputy president here. I don't know whether she's still there. She was for a short time, Phumzile. We had some deputy presidents in Zimbabwe. We had Joyce Banda as president in Malawi. But at that level, we are struggling. But nevertheless, we can say politically, there is the face and the voice of women on the continent. But I realized that there was an area in which we were seriously lagging behind, is the economic advancement of women. And this has been dictated again by interacting with them in villages and townships, and to see how they struggle just to move out of subsistence. And even those who manage to have a little bit of success, they move in circles. They cannot break through to really do significant business and get money. And not only that, whenever decisions are made about plans and projects and whatever, women do not sit at the table to make decisions about what is going to be the future of their nations and how to distribute resources. So I said, no, let me now, the political front, it will continue with other people. Let me now focus on economic advancement of women. That's why the trust is now focusing on building networks of African women, one in finance. And we are now established, we are in 15 countries, and engaging ministers of finance, governors of central banks, CEOs of most important financial institutions. And we discuss with them how to remove the structural obstacles which are making it difficult for women to get assets to financing, to funds. And we also want to see much more women progressing in the leadership of financial institutions, sitting in boards, being in excos, leading departments in financial institutions, because that's the only way financial institutions will be able to respond to needs and specific challenges which women face to get access to finance. We have been supported by the African Development Bank, and I can say that this is the network which is much more consolidated, and we are now part of, we managed to be part of the financial inclusion issues with the G20, because I said, yes, why not? We need to see it also at global level and to discuss these things. So we are focusing on removing structural obstacles to open the avenues so that hundreds of thousands of women, millions of women in future, they do not have to struggle to get access to finance. Then we decided also to establish another network on agribusiness, and deliberately we call it agribusiness. It doesn't mean that we don't work with associations as Shared Interest is doing. We work with small, we work with medium and big business. The idea is to say even those women who are in agriculture today, for subsistence, they have to change. They have to be supported to change so that they can not only put food on the table, but also to put money in the bank. And that's why we say agribusiness, to say agriculture is business. It's not only for subsistence. We established another network of what we call African business, African women in business. This is mostly aggregating network so that in every country in which we are, with this network, we are in 10 countries, we have to engage those priorities in a strategic way in which we say, what are the issues we have to solve in 1, 2, 3, 5 years if we are to change that landscape in which women are moving in circles that don't get the breakthrough. So the network is actually a network of networks. But it's to engage parliament, to change legislation, it's to engage government, to create institutions which are deliberately, promoting women. It is actually to do advocacy, but also to bring the lower women to come to medium. So it's a transformative approach of saying, we want to see change in numbers. In 5, 10 years, we want to be able to say that we have the right to that big slice of the cake in our economies. Women are not expected just to be in the so-called informal sector. We want to own within the formal sector as investors, yes, why not? As executive, yes, as entrepreneurs, but serious entrepreneurs. Finally, this year we are going to establish a network on women in the media. We want to transform the way women are being portrayed. Many of you here in America, the image of women, of Africa is because they are victims of HIV, because they are in poverty, because they are refugees, etc., etc. That's not what defines us as African women. It is true that it's part of our reality, but you don't know, because there's no one who tells you that we are so creative, we are entrepreneurial. We are doing fantastic things. The emergence of young women who are taking now, opportunities, particularly in telecommunications, etc. You never know about them because no one tells you about them. So we need to have a network of African women who tell the stories of success of African women. And this is what we are busy trying to do. Why I was so long? It's because it's not about Graça. It's about those I would call thousands today, which I hope soon there will be millions. And this movement, it's around something we call multiplying faces and amplifying voices of African women. My dream is when I go down, instead of you talking of Ponzi alone, of Graça Machel, maybe of the first president of Pan-African, you will have hundreds and thousands of women who really represent that energy and that creativity, resistance, and the fighting. What did you were saying about, I mean, the how did you say, of a tiger? This is what African women are. And we want you to see them in hundreds of thousands, telling their own stories, changing exactly the perceptions which you have about us. So I'm proud to receive this award, because I'm going to take it back to them. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to them. And I hope that we will be able in a few years to stand here or in another platform to tell you how much we have made. And finally, I want to say this. I'm also very much engaged in a huge network which is fighting against child marriage. Why? Because I believe we need to sow the seeds of social transformation so that in the next decade, in the 2 decades to come, we cannot continue to be talking about the same problems. So young girls, adolescents have to be given an opportunity to break those chains, and we build new generations of women who are going to have a real good start in life, and without the limitations which still exist. So sowing the seeds of social change for us is to invest in young girls and adolescents. This is all about what we are trying to do together, I mean, as FDC in Mozambique, as the Graça Machel Trust, which is based in Johannesburg, but it's much more regional and continental. I thank you very much for recognizing them. I thank you very much for embracing the efforts they are doing and to share the interest. I know very soon it is not going to be only with the 100-something women in Mozambique. It is going to be soon a regional effort in which we are building a network of African business women in agribusiness. They started on Monday, they finished today, a meeting in which women from Malawi, from Zambia, from Zimbabwe, from Mozambique, and the DRC, they starting a project called Food Basket. They are going to start mainly to produce seeds, because with seeds which are adequate to our conditions in every single country, then we will build the whole chain of production, of processing, putting in the market. But we want to start from the beginning to have a seed which is adequate for us, and knowing it is our production. This is how we are trying, but I'm sure, more than trying, this is how we are engaged in economic advancement of women, but also sowing the seeds of social transformation, investing in young girls and adolescents. Thank you very much.